The story starts at a kung fu cinema in Detroit, when Alabama starts a conversation with Clarence by intentionally spilling her popcorn all over him. She starts smoking, which makes Clarence uncomfortable, but he does not talk as he is a gentleman. She asks him to fill her in with whatever she missed in the movie, and he does. After the movie, Alabama shows him her kung fu moves, and Clarence tells her that she is the girl after his heart. As they continue to have fun, she asks if he would like to get pie, as she loves to eat pie after seeing a movie, and Clarence agrees. They head over to a restaurant called Ray's. Upon reaching the restaurant, Clarence asks her to tell him about herself after sharing a few details about himself. He asks her a series of questions, but she gives him vague answers about her life, but answers the non-important questions. He asks why she sat by him in a theater full of empty seats. Alabama tells him that he looks like a nice guy and that's why she dumped all her popcorn on him, making Clarence smile at her revelation. Soon after, Clarence takes her to his workplace, where he comes to read comics and plays music, even though he is underpaid by his boss. While Clarence explains the content of a comic book to her, they get into a romantic situation and they make out. Clarence takes her back to his apartment and they make love to each other. The next day, Clarence notices that Alabama isn't in bed and he goes outside to search for her. He finds her crying and she confesses to him that she was paid to be at the theater by his boss, Lance, as she is a call girl. Lance ordered a call girl because he wanted Clarence to get laid as a birthday present. Clarence quickly connects the dots, but he tells her that he isn't mad as it is the best night he has ever had. Although Alabama is surprised he is comfortable with her being a call girl, she breaks down in tears, confessing that she has been a call girl for 4 days and Clarence is her third customer to date. She wants him to give her a chance to show him that she can be faithful to him, as she wants to be with him. Alabama asks if he is sincere about last night being the best time of his life, and Alabama confesses that she is in love with him, although she is not into the same things he likes, as she was just pretending all along. However, she promises him that she isn't lying about being in love with him and swears never to lie to him again. Afterwards, Clarence and Alabama get married and Alabama decides to get a tattoo of Clarence. While getting the tattoo, Clarence asks who Drexel is and she tells him that Drexel was her when she was still a call girl. Clarence asks if he treated her well and Alabama assures him that he treated her decently, although he gets physically violent with her friend, Lean. Elsewhere, at a motel, Drexel, Big Don, and Floyd discuss their call girls while they eat. Drexel later kills Floyd and Big Don. He takes all the in the room and leaves. At home, Clarence is feeling haunted by what Drexel did to Alabama, and Clarence's spirit convinces him into putting Drexel to eternal sleep. He decides to go through with it and arms himself with a gun. He asks Alabama for her former address, lying to her that he wants to go over to pick up her stuff. Alabama reluctantly gives him the address, but says that it isn't a good idea as Drexel is a very dangerous man. Clarence drives to the address, which turns out to be a club. He tells Marty that he wants to talk to Drexel about Alabama, and Marty walks him in. He tells Drexel that he is Alabama's husband. He gives Drexel an envelope containing Alabama's payoff money, and states that she is moving on. Drexel starts a fight with Clarence after discovering the envelope is empty. He ends up beating up Clarence with the help of Marty, even though Clarence manages to land a few blows. Drexel decides to search him. He finds his wallet and discovers Clarence's address. He then asks Marty to bring Alabama from his house. Clarence smirks as he shoots Marty and Drexel. He threatens a call girl to pick up Alabama's stuff and shoots Drexel once again. Not long after, Clarence returns home with Alabama's stuff and tells her that he had put Drexel to eternal sleep. She starts to cry and Clarence shouts at her as he thinks she cares about Drexel. However, she tells him what he did is romantic and kisses him, but they find out that the bag he brought contains cocaine and not Alabama's clothes. Later on, Alabama and Clarence visit Clarence's distanced father, Clifford, a security guard and a former police officer. He is surprised to see his son, but Clifford introduces himself to Alabama and Clarence tells him that they are married, even though Clifford is surprised and unhappy to find out that his son is married without his consent. Clarence asks Alabama to get them some beer in order to have some alone time with his father. After she leaves, Clarence starts talking about Alabama and Clifford tells him that Alabama seems nice, but Clarence is satisfied with his father's answer. Clifford chastises him for showing up unannounced in his house after 3 years. He tells Clarence to take things slow and asks when he got married, but Clarence says that he needs his help as he is in trouble. After hearing what happened, Clifford yells at him, telling him to stop acting like a child, and asks what he wants from him. Clarence asks him to find out from his friends at the force if they know about him and Drexel's death. Clarence tells him that he has not asked anything from him since his mother divorced him, and asks him to help him just this once. Clarence tells him to forget about it if he doesn't want to help him and informs him that he would not have been here if he had a choice. Clifford finally helps his son and says that the police think Drexel's death is drug-related, as he is associated with Blue Lou Boyle, a gangster drug dealer. Clifford advises him to stay out of trouble, as he has a wife to think about, and tells him that he loves him. Clarence gives him his friend's address, Richie, in Los Angeles, and the couple leaves for LA. Elsewhere, Richie goes for an audition as an actor, and the interviewer tells him that she is impressed as he is a good actor. Clarence calls Richie to inform him about his visit, and tells him that he will be coming with his wife. Alabama also says hello to Richie, and Clarence asks him if he got the letters or mail he sent. Clarence tells him that all his money problems are over, and he hangs up the call to make out with Alabama. On getting back to his apartment, Vincenzo Cacotti, a counsel of Blue Lou Boyle, attacks Clifford. They tie him up and Vincenzo questions him about his son's whereabouts. Clifford tells him that he would have loved to help him, but he hasn't seen Clarence, and Vincenzo punches him in the face. Vincenzo tells him that his neighbor saw Clarence's vehicle parked in front of his trailer yesterday, forcing Clifford to admit that he has seen him. Vincenzo explains that Alabama is a call girl, Drexel, and he believes that she sent Clarence to eliminate everyone and take the drugs after discovering about Drexel's drug business. It turns out that Clarence forgot his driver's license in Drexel's hand, and that is how Vincenzo is able to identify him. Clifford tells him that Clarence showed up yesterday with his wife, requesting money for their honeymoon, and he gave them without asking them where they are going. Vincenzo starts torturing him as he is convinced that Clifford knows where they are, and asks him to talk before he hurts him. Realizing that he is going to die, Clifford humiliates and mocks Vincenzo, calling his ancestors the N-word. Vincenzo puts him to eternal sleep, despite not eliminating anyone in a long time, and asks his men to search Clarence's apartment for clues on where he went. One of the men opens the fridge and sees Richie's address on it. The couple arrives in LA, they head over to Richie's apartment, and he is happy to see them. The three leave to get something to eat, leaving Floyd, Richie's roommate, alone. On their way, Richie tells them about his audition for TJ, and Clarence thinks that it will be cool if he meets Captain Kirk. They rent a suite and Clarence shows Richie the drugs he took from Alabama's apartment, which makes Richie panic. Clarence tells him that the drugs are now his and he wants to sell them, but Richie tells him that he doesn't know anyone that can buy them, as he only had Floyd. Richie tells him how difficult it is to sell the because he does not know anyone, but Clarence manages to convince him to help them. Richie tells him that he knows a guy, Elliot Blitzer, that can help, but he isn't guaranteeing him anything, as the guy works as an assistant to Lee Donovitz, a big movie producer. Richie arranges a meeting with Elliot and they meet at a roller coaster. He questions Clarence about the drugs, and Clarence tells him that he has a friend at the police department who got access to the evidence room and snagged the coke. Elliot tells him that Lee is not into taking risks, as he has a couple of guys he has been dealing with for years and they are extremely safe. Clarence insists on talking with Lee, and Elliot calls him even though it is Sunday. Clarence puts Lee's doubts to rest, assuring him that his is safe, and Lee asks Elliot to bring them on Wednesday after asking Elliot a few questions about Clarence. Vincenzo's man, Virgil, visits Richie's apartment and asks for Alabama from Floyd. Unknowingly to Floyd, he gives him the address to their motel, and Virgil leaves. Returning to the motel, Clarence offers to go get something for them to eat, while Alabama heads into the room. On getting into the room, Virgil asks for the coke and Clarence's whereabouts, but Alabama feigns ignorance, stating that her name is Sadie. She says that her husband might know Clarence, but he is out for football practice. Virgil hits her on her face, knocking her down. He asks about and Clarence again, but she refuses to tell him anything. He continues to hit her while Clarence gets them food, but Alabama doesn't tell him anything. Virgil figures out that the coke might be under the bed and he finds it there. Meanwhile, Alabama gathers strength while he searches the bed. She fights back, breaking multiple objects on his head and setting him on fire as he is about to shoot her. She finally puts him to eternal sleep with his shotgun, and shoots him until there aren't any more bullets in the gun. She then hits the gun on his head continuously due to the trauma she just endured. Clarence walks in and helps her out as the cops will be there anytime soon. Elsewhere, Elliot is pulled over by a police officer for overspeeding, as he is receiving a fun job from a lady. He begs her to hide because she wants him to drive fast, but he refuses. Elliot calls her bad names, causing her to spill the all over his face, and Elliot is arrested. The police officers persuade Elliot into giving them the information they need, and agree to wear a wire during the deal with Clarence to avoid going to jail. Elsewhere, Clarence treats Alabama's wound and they talk about going to Cancun to start over. Shortly after, Clarence, Alabama, and Richie set out to meet Lee. While they leave, Richie receives a call and he is informed that he got the role of TJ. Everyone is happy for him and they leave to make the deal, leaving Floyd behind again, while the police officers prepare Elliot for the deal. They assure him that he is doing the right thing and tell him that he is going to be okay. Elliot starts acting suspicious and Clarence suspects that he is an informant. In the elevator, Clarence confronts him with a gun and threatens to put him to eternal sleep, but Elliot manages to persuade Clarence that he is clean. He apologizes to Elliot and tells him that he didn't mean to scare him, but he needed to be sure of his loyalty. Elsewhere, Vincenzo's men visit Richie's house, and Floyd gives them the address to the hotel. At the hotel, the guard is about to search them, but Lee interrupts him and asks Elliot to introduce them. While Lee tests the Vincenzo's men enter the hotel, and Lee tells Clarence to convince him that the deal is not a hoax. Lee takes Clarence from the room and Elliot follows closely, trying to listen in, but interrupts the connection of the wire in the process. Clarence convinces Lee and he agrees to buy the as the police prepare to arrest them. Clarence excuses himself to go to the bathroom and tells Alabama to count the money. While he uses the bathroom, the police officers enter the room and arrest all of them. Not long after, Vincenzo's men also enter the room and there is a fight for authority between the groups. While the group argues, Elliot asks the officer if he can leave, but he tells him to stay put and Lee is surprised at Elliot's betrayal. Lee is angry at Elliot for stabbing him in the back and pours coffee on him, causing a police officer to shoot him, and a firing spree ensues between the groups. With almost everyone being eliminated, Richie manages to escape, but Clarence gets shot in his eye as he leaves the toilet. Alabama begs Clarence to not die on her and shoots an officer with Clarence's gun. Clarence finally wakes up, as the bullet only grazed him. Alabama takes the bag with the money and escapes with Clarence while more police officers arrive. Clarence has his eye treated and Alabama drives them to Mexico. A few years later, Alabama and Clarence visit the beach with their son, Elvis, as she thinks about the moments that led them there.